Hi guys, and in today's video I'm going to tackle the subject of buying a second-hand saxophone, which is actually a question that we get asked quite often. Now, it'd be very easy for me at this stage to just give you like a standard sales answer. No, 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 avoid at all costs. It's a really dangerous game and you'll have no warranty and all that stuff. But actually, there can be so many permutations to it that it's not the case of one size fits all when it comes to trying to pick out a second-hand saxophone on a listing like eBay, for example. So we thought we'd have a little bit of fun with it today and actually scroll through eBay, set some filters, and actually pick out several second-hand saxophones, buy them up, and then in part 2 of this video I shall give you my conclusions. And today I want to focus on student instruments, so specifically used student instruments. I'm not talking about, brand new instruments here, sold by various stores and what have you. I'm talking about pre-owned saxophones. So I have set the filter on my eBay page here to pre-owned instruments that are sold in the UK with a price factor of for this filtering at the moment, I've set it to £40 through to £600, and it's given me like 162 options. I should say alto saxophone as well as the other thing that I'm wanting to concentrate on, just to make it a little bit more of a sort of concentrated search and exercise, shall we say. Now, I suppose one of the advantages for me is that I deal with saxophones every day, and so hopefully I know what I'm looking at, and I can perhaps judge when a price seems appropriate for the saxophone in question. And I would say to you guys out there who are complete newbies, you do need help with this kind of thing if you are a first-time saxophone player and have no idea, because it can be an absolute minefield. There's such an array of brands out there. Some of them are known brands like Jupiter and Yamaha and Conn-Selmer and that sort of thing, but there are plenty more unknown brands. I see them all the time, and often the case here is that you are looking at something called stencil brands, which is to say that known manufacturers are making instruments for companies or music stores with their own requirements, and that's been going on through the ages, whether it's been classic vintage brands like Busha doing it, or sort of modern day, so for example Chinese factories making plenty of stencil instruments for various stores and what have you. Anyway, that's enough waffle right now, but just to give you an idea that there's such an array of instruments out there, and it can be, as I say, a little bit of a minefield. So anyway, I've got a page open here, and I'm just going to scroll down and try and find things that really take my fancy. So I'm just going to kind of chat as I go. So immediately here I'm seeing a Trevor James The Horn Classic in Pink, which is an instrument that we know here at sax.co, and it seems to be on for a fairly decent price. So I'm just going to mark a heart there and just click on this and see what it tells us. Okay, right, lots of pictures, which is always good. Looks like it's in decent nick. It's always nice when they give you plenty of images to look at. There's a Yamaha 4C mouthpiece there, in fact, and they don't normally come with Yamaha mouthpieces, so that could be a nice addition. The lacquer, certainly from these photos, looks like it's in decent nick. If I just scroll down, look at the description. So it's fairly basic here. Good use condition, sold with case, please study the pictures. Key features, yeah, it's not telling me anything I don't already know. Suitable for beginners and intermediate players. So yeah, I think I'm going to place a bid on that one. Okay, interesting, good. That's a pink TJ hopefully coming our way. Let's continue to scroll down and see what else we got here. Blessing Elkhart, okay, interesting. Odyssey. Oh yes, the coloured Elkharts. So I don't think I'm going to go for that one. Not everyone's cup of tea, the metallic green, although I've just committed to a pink Trevor James, so perhaps I'm contradicting myself there, but the pink Trevor James did have a certain following, I'll have to tell you. Okay, Fremont, interesting. And okay, so this one here for £68, the FF alto saxophone, pre-owned, has caught my attention, just because this falls into the category of a very cheap instrument, and you know, many of you out there may just be looking to spend a few quid, understandably so. Saxophones are expensive things, so let's see what this gives us when I click on this. Okay, lots of images again, quite hard often to tell just from the images, but it's got an interesting vintage style neck key there. Doesn't look too old from the look of the lacquer on these pictures, but I do suspect that it's going to be a lower quality instrument at that price. There's not much information here. It has branding FF, I think it's alto saxophone, so the person clearly doesn't know much here. Please note that I don't know if this works. I know nothing about saxophones, so I'm not sure what should be inspected in order to give a more detailed description. So you never know, could be a bargain, or we could be in trouble with this one. So this has piqued my interest, so I'm going to mark up this one and place a bid on it. Okay. So that's the FF alto saxophone. All right, let's just keep going here. Okay, I would like to do something with it. There's plenty of mention of Conn on here, such a famous brand here, and this one's labelled Conn-Selmer alto saxophone for £180. So let's just click onto it and see what flavour of Conn-Selmer, if you like. Oh, this looks familiar from the pictures. Could it be a Bundy? Aha, it is. I can see from that picture there, there's a Bundy. Okay, so Bundy saxophone, so a really well-known student instrument in well, throughout the world, but particularly in the States, in the student band market for many years. I think Boucher started out by manufacturing the Bundy, and then Selmer USA took over in the 60s, and then it was one of those instruments that died out, discontinued in the 90s, but it was a known sort of student brand, a go-to brand, if you like, maybe before the Yamaha student instruments came along. So it'd be interesting to take a look at this. Let's just have a quick look at the description. Conn-Selmer alto saxophone with case, completely overhauled, plays like new, perfect for a beginner. Okay. Plays very well. This is quite a robust instrument, did have some tarnishing, but most of it has been removed. There are no dents, looks very well, can collect if you wish. Thanks for looking. Okay, I think it'd be good to look at this Conn-Selmer Bundy, so I will mark that one up as well and put a bid in there. Currently going for 180 quid, so. Okay, so Trevor James Classic, buy now price, a few mouthpieces. Okay, so here we have a Jupiter 500 series alto sax with soft case, stand accessories, pre-owned, £270. That seems like a decent price if it's in good condition. Let's have a look here. There's a nice picture of it next to a whole bunch of keyboard gear. Let's see what the description is. Excellent condition Jupiter 500 alto sax, just a few blemishes around a couple of the ports. The neck cord was dried and come loose, but replacing it should be an easy job. Yeah, so that would need to go to a technician for that particular job. Includes fleece lined strap, stand, rigid soft case, lots of beginner sax books, pull through cleaner, cover and cap for a mouthpiece on top of the body, bunch of reeds which should probably be replacers. Though I haven't used most of them, they're probably about 15 years old. So that gives us an indication of the age of the Jupiter. Okay, so I would suspect at that age it's going to need some attention from a technician. Of course, we've got all those resources here at sax.co, so we'll incorporate that into part 2 of this video. But in the meantime, I think that will do nicely in terms of my bidding for today. So, yeah. We'll take that one. Well, there we have it. That's 4 instruments by my count. Hopefully we'll be successful with our bidding. I can't guarantee anything there, but we'll do our best. And as if by magic, in a few moments, I'm going to appear back with these instruments and do some blowing and some further chatting. Well, here we are. It's 2 weeks later. My hair has grown and all 4 saxophones, I'm pleased to say, have arrived. We managed to produce a winning bid on all 4 of them, and I've got them laid out to my left and to my right. So, and actually before I get going with them all individually, I should say that they all arrived in differing states of packaging, should I say, from, you know, in a case that was wrapped up to literally a saxophone in a bin liner with various bits of bubble wrap attaching it together. So we'll post some photographs in the bit when I come to that saxophone. But in the meantime, I'm going to start with the Jupiter 500 and give it a little bit of an examination and a basic test, just more from the technical point of view, just to see if it's working. So it's not going to be beautiful music, folks. It's going to be very much just a mechanical test to see how this thing is panning out for us. So in general, it's okay. Everything is clunking down quite nicely as you'd expect it. It's making all the sounds that we'd expect when we hit the low B and B flat. They appear to be sealing. So the first signs are relatively promising with this. I think it's a fairly old Jupiter. You know, I think we're talking a couple of decades or so, judging by the old Van Doren reeds that came with it. And it's got some interesting tape going on here on the cork. Obviously someone had a loose mouthpiece and they needed to bump it up a little bit. So I can't quite put the mouthpiece exactly into the tuning position that I'd like. So we're not going to measure it for tuning right now, but let's just see how it basically performs. So this is the Jupiter 500. Well, actually, first impressions are it's pretty good. It's pitching up quite well. The sound is quite nice. I don't think it's particularly changed over the years since Jupiter made these instruments 20 years ago or so. Yeah, in terms of the actual raw sound of the instrument, it's quite nice, and actually it appears like it's responding quite well. So I suppose before I get on with all the rest of them, you know, it's worth saying that with any instrument that you buy second-hand, as I said in the intro bit, it is a bit of a risk sometimes that it can work out perfectly well, and you can get an instrument that just works straight out the box, and perhaps you can have the opposite experience as well. So we'll soon find out as we go on. But in the meantime, this is actually responding quite well. I would say that it probably still needs a little bit of attention in terms of a technician's opinion as to whether things are sealing properly, but as I'm just blowing through things here with a relatively medium reed that's quite responsive, it appears to be knocking out all the notes. So largely a success on this first one, the Jupiter 500 really. Let's move on to the next one. On my left we have the pink Trevor James Classic, and we know these ones well in our store. We certainly sold a bunch of them in years gone by. So let's see. On first glance, okay, a little bit rattly in this part of the mechanism here, so that could do with some attention. Sounds like it is sealing, but it doesn't sound absolutely perfect down there. So I'm suspecting this may need some technical assistance. Okay, let's give it a blow, see where we're up to. Okay, so a couple of small issues. First of all, the E flat is very sticky, so I was tripping up on that one at first, and then as I went into the lower range, I just found it a little bit resistant down there. I tried to identify that a little bit more through playing with a subtone, just to it's a good test for seeing whether an instrument is leaking or not, and it's certainly getting the bottom B flat when you give it a good amount of air and play with a full tone, but on the subtone it's just a little bit of a strain down there, so I'm pretty convinced that this will need some checking over. To what degree the work will be, it's hard to say from my point of view sitting here, but I would certainly want this to go and have some kind of service work if I was going on with this instrument. But yeah, sound-wise and everything, you know, it's producing all the notes. We know this instrument, and it's a decent instrument, but it's certainly going to take a little bit of work from the point of view of the technical side of things, the technician's work. Let's move on to the next one, which is the Bundy. Oh, actually, before I continue, just on these two instruments here, I should tell you how much we eventually paid for them on the bidding system. So with the Jupiter, we got that for £240 in the end. The Pink Classic, we achieved £208 on this one. And the Bundy we got for £217. So let's move on to this. Now, I seem to remember from the description that they described it as having had a full overhaul, I think was what was put in the description. So I'm expecting this to play quite well, unless it's had any kind of damage in transit. I guess we'll soon find out. But just before I get going on it, it's an interesting one under the fingers straight away. The ergonomics are not what I'm used to. We're winding back the years when it comes to trying to get on with playing a sax like this. I mean, immediately the ergonomics of this left-hand stack are not comfortable for me. Others out there may love this kind of thing if you're used to slightly more vintage instruments, but I'm finding it's very cramped, the positioning of the G sharp key here. I tend to find myself, I can feel it already. I'm slipping onto the keys just below the G sharp key when I'm going for a G sharp, so that's a little bit awkward. And then we've got some real old styling with you know, the octave key and the thumb rest here, the side keys. Yeah, we're definitely not talking up-to-date modern ergonomics. So not so great from that point of view. Perhaps if you're a beginner starting out and looking for, you know, the optimum start in your saxophone playing career. But that said, let's just see how it performs just from a tonal point of view. Oh, okay, so no top F sharp, that's fine. And an interesting side F sharp here. Rather protruding for my liking there. But it appears to be working okay. Let's just give another little blast. Yeah, for me, so far out of the three of them, this one actually has the nicest sound. You can hear that sort of vintagey quality in the sound. So I quite like it from that point of view. But personally, I could never get on with this as my first instrument. And if I was teaching someone, I wouldn't recommend going in this direction, because there's been so much that's been created since with all the modern manufacturers out there making advancements in ergonomics and design and what have you. So it feels very clunky for me, even if the tone is nice. And I'm sure the intonation in modern models improved as well. So, so some pluses and some minuses with this one. So that is the Bundy, and then finally the lesser spotted FF, which we achieved for £160. So I don't know anything about this. It's one of these stencil brandings that is not so well known out there in saxophone spheres, but I'm sure some of you guys may know it. So this was the one that arrived in the bin bag. So it's going to be interesting to see how it's come through the transit process. And I can already see straight away a couple of issues here. We're missing a bis key here, and what else? Yeah, it just feels a little bit clunky here. Yes, I think we're missing some cork there, so that's hitting on the metal directly there. So anyway, let's just see how the thing blows and comment afterwards. Okay. Well, the top part of the sax works okay. Enough said about the lower part, so it definitely needs some attention. Let's have a little look at the pads. Yeah, I mean, just looking at the palm keys, I can see that the material is cut into a fair degree here. The tone holes have done some serious work here on the pad, so they would need changing up here, and there could be a whole host of regulation things, pads needing changing down here. So it's an unknown bill in terms of what the repair department would quote you, but the first thing you need to do with this instrument is take it to a technician, because it certainly needs some work. I mean, also just in terms of its sort of presentation, it's covered in dust and it's just a little bit gunky. So not such a great purchase, this one. But I suppose that is the point overall. This whole process, this is why we went with 4 instruments, just so that we're actually hoping to get a little bit of a scope of instruments with some variety. You know, this video isn't about trying to push out one message, which is you should never buy second hand. It's a risk that you take, and sometimes it works out. The Jupiter is blowing fine, the Conn-Selmer sounds okay, has a couple of little things going on, but as I'm pointing out with each instrument, they've all got their quirks. Some play fine, some have poor ergonomics. This one isn't playing fine, this one is. So we've got 4 different situations here, and I suppose it just demonstrates the variety of situations and the risk that you can take by going for second-hand on a forum like eBay. I suppose really, if you want to get this right and you do want to buy second-hand, the ideal situation for you would be to have someone who knows what they're doing. Take an expert with you if you're able to actually go to that person's house and try the instrument. Because then you can make an informed decision at the time and either go for it or don't go for it. When you're just buying it on eBay and you have no choice to send the instrument back, you are taking a risk. So you just need to bear that in mind if you're going to do such a thing. And I suppose overall the point that I'd like to make, representing a store like sax.co, is that we sell brand new instruments. They are fully guaranteed and set up, and you're never going to get anything like this if you were to order a basic student startup instrument. You're always going to have that peace of mind that everything is going to be fine, and even if there was to be a problem in the first few days of receiving the saxophone, you've got us on the end of the phone to discuss what it is, swap round the instrument, or whatever is required. So that concludes it. All 4 instruments, all playing completely differently. They all present different problems. Some are good, some are less good. But I suppose I'd return to my point that there's nothing that quite beats that experience of coming into the store, seeing racks of brand new instruments, all fully guaranteed, having that backup service and expertise that you get from our staff at sax.co.uk. So really, if you want to do it safely, that is the direction that I would advise you go in, unless you really know what you're doing with regards to choosing a second-hand instrument. So that's it from me on this one, and I shall catch you on the next one.